bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here. It is May 5th. It's a Tuesday. We used to call these Tactics Tuesdays, but then that got moved to Thursday, and now it's all kinds of complicated. So that's going to stay Thursday. This is just a hashtag-less Tuesday. If you want to go Cinco de Mayo style, you can. That's up to you. But it's lots of things to talk about on a Tuesday. There's the Bundesliga, which is looking like it's going to be close to getting back on the field. There's the Premier League. There's the Football League. There is France. There is Scotland. There's all kinds of stuff to dig into. But we'll be taking your tweets and questions throughout the show at Soccer Down here. John, how are you?
One foot in front of the other, brother. Try to look like I know what I'm doing. And behind the hologram cup, I have my...
What?
Well, remember how, like, when we were kids on Frosted Flakes, you could get, like, the 3D kind of cup deal, and it would be the baseball player, and you could turn it a couple of different directions, and it would, like, shine. Or whatever it was.
Hologram?
Hologram, whatever. But no, when we were kids in Frosted Flakes, you could get like the different stars of Major League Baseball. I have a cup that can do that this morning, and I have my Mountain Dew in it. But here's the kind of morning I've already had.
Oh, no.
All right, just to give you an idea, I've told you what is in the hologram cup. But the boss is a Diet Coke person. And before I had my cup of Mountain Dew this morning, sponsorships available here at the show.
Sure.
Should anyone from any soda?
That's the wrong one, though.
Well, you have yours. I have mine. It's not an exclusive. There's your Coke Energy. Yes. See, this is the thing. It's a Coke show and a Pepsi show. We're not going to complain.
No, it's a Coke show.
It says half of the show.
Yeah.
So I had, before I had my Mountain Dew in that particular cup, I had my diet drink that usually will send me forward and get me going into the show. And then I get the Mountain Dew out, and then that finishes me off. My cup was in the kitchen, and the boss had her cup of Diet Coke finished, and so I, being the excellent husband that I am, I go in and ask her, since she's in her conference calls, hey, do you want some more Diet Coke? She's like, yeah, sure. So I take her cup into the kitchen, put it next to mine, and my cup still had some Diet Dr. Pepper in it. Unfortunately, I poured her Diet Coke into my cup that had the Diet Dr. Pepper in it, and her cup remained empty. And so, of course, realizing what I had done, now that I had a full cup of Diet Coke that had Diet Dr. Pepper down below, I'm like, nope, that goes right in the sink. So I poured an entire cup in the sink. The boss got her Diet Coke second time around. I am now in the office, and I have headed straight to the Mountain Dew.
Good job there, I guess.
Yeah, it took 2 tries to finally get everything squared away amongst the 2 cups in the office, but... yeah, so that's where I am this morning. Chris Hutchison is actually asking, whatever happened to Jolt Cola?
I think they still make it. I think it's still around. I had that like in high school and college, and I know they had their initial run. Oh, man, it would have been in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
It was... I didn't have a problem with it. I know some people really had problems with how much caffeine was in it. I didn't have issues with it.
I did. I was in serious trouble. I mean, I got the shakes from Jolt Cola. I mean, worse than what I do with the Mountain Lightning experiment that we had the week and a half ago.
Yeah, that's no good.
No bueno. Introduced in 1985 was Jolt Cola.
Okay. It was introduced, then it was like banned or something, and then it came back maybe with a slightly modified formula.
Wow. Available in Japan in the late 80s, early 90s through coffee distributorships.
That would make sense.
The Jolt Awards are annual awards given since 1991.
Who is up for a Jolt Award?
If you'd like to read Dr. Dobbs' journal, Apparently, they give something having to do with computer technology, computer magazines. That makes absolutely zero sense.
Okay. I mean, good for Jolt being diverse, I guess.
Yeah. Since 2009, Jolt Cola and related flavors have been rebranded as Jolt Energy. Jolt Energy drink comes in multiple flavors.
Wasn't it already energy?
I know. So it's like Jolt Double Energy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I might need that.
Originally made by the Jolt Company of Rochester, New York. Now, this seems counterproductive. In the fall of 1987, the company began marketing a low-calorie version called Jolt 25, which was sweetened with a mixture of sugar and NutraSweet. And they later diversified into different flavors. 2003, it was licensed to a New Jersey company, which manufactured a line of caffeinated gum and mints bearing the Jolt slogan. Revamped their product line in 2005, filed for bankruptcy 2009, following a pricing dispute for their cans. And then in 2017, Geek.com confirmed that Jolt Cola would return at Dollar General stores in September of 2017. And it is now currently produced for ECC Jolt, a New York City-based company. So if you like to shop at Dollar General, maybe you can find Jolt these days.
I guess. I found it in high school at like a really dodgy gas station.
Yes.
We were the only ones that had it in Morrow.
Yes.
We stocked up on it, and everybody else got sick on it, and I didn't, and just kind of faded out. It was a very quick thing. But for those of you who have followed our watch-alongs and stuff on Twitch, we're trying something today. We're on Twitch, and our good friend Kelly Francis found us on Twitch. And she said she could make a joke about your cup, but she's not going to, John.
What's holding her back?
It's early, trying to be nice.
Come on, Kelly. What? No. Go ahead, make the joke. That's what it's here for.
We'll leave that one to the side and keep moving on. All right, so yesterday we talked U.S. women's national team a lot. Really nothing else has come out from that outside of there is talk about an appeal, and I don't know where that would go, to be perfectly honest. I think a settlement would be the far better route here for the Federation included, and some good news on the Federation lawsuit front, because there actually is a front of lawsuits with the Federation. There's a bunch. One might be going away. It looks like they have settled with the United States Soccer Foundation. Now, if you remember how that one went down, a lot of people lumped it into all of the other lawsuits. And this was one that the Foundation actually filed against the Federation, and it felt like it was kind of a preemptive move because there was talk as part of the 26 World Cup that the Federation would basically try to create a new foundation. And if you remember, the United States Soccer Foundation started from the 1994 World Cup, from monies that were made during that tournament. So it was kind of strange to want to do that all over again when you already had an existing foundation. And there was some back and forth about logo usage because the U.S. Soccer Foundation logo is incorporating the old U.S. Soccer logo in it. They've changed their crest and their branding. So you had a lot of back and forth. It felt like a preemptive move by the Foundation, a smart move by the Foundation, and it looks like they're going to sit down and sort out whatever they need to sort out. Good step in the right direction. Next on that agenda needs to be with both national teams, both players' associations, get something done so we're not dealing with this hanging over our head.
Yeah, that's the key here. And the discussion that we had yesterday, I would recommend that folks who haven't had the chance to listen to yesterday's show go back and listen to the first half hour, where I think you broke down the entire situation very eloquently and laid it all out there for the future of the game and how important it is right now for both sides to sit down, get things squared away, and move forward to make sure that the game benefits and that no one is left behind to try and figure out what to do where the game is concerned. So I think that really, I think that you laid the case out very, very well about getting everybody to the table to where they need to listen to each other instead of sitting there and yelling at each other through a different court, the court of public opinion, and just get down there, get things settled, and move on, because I think that the game right now is at a very important point, and I think that it's more important for everyone to move forward as a group in a single file line as opposed to everyone trying to sit there and fight amongst themselves and have it be counterproductive. So recommended listening is the first half hour of the show from yesterday.
Yeah, the game right now is in a very precarious place, and none of us like that that's the situation, but whenever you have a global pandemic that prevents revenue from being earned, yeah, that's what's going to happen. So it's complicated. These are issues that didn't need to get to where they are. They have. Now you have a very good excuse for fixing them, and that's what needs to happen, because this is not going to help anything going forward with, yes, the Federation won the first round in the courts. It could be appealed. You still have other issues that needed to be resolved. They won the big element. Now, you could question the legal strategy on the women's side. I think there's multiple elements of it that should be questioned between the association and their legal team. Especially the fact that there was a negotiation about a settlement before it got to this point. And the numbers were far apart, according to people who have sources on this. Anywhere from 60-plus million that the women were looking for and $9 million that the Federation was offering. That's kind of hard to find a number in between that works. But that $9 million's better than the zero that you're looking at now. Now, I think the Federation, again, because of the change in leadership, will recognize that this is a time that they should look bigger than just this immediate case. Yeah, you won the first part of it, and you're getting killed in the court of public opinion because people don't know all the nuance to it. It's complicated. It's not a straight-up comparison between the two national teams. The cycles are not the same. Each year is not the same. It's a very complicated situation. The women's game's in a different place than the men. They need more investment on the club side. They need more security on a salary side that the men get from the club side. It's complicated. None of that should prevent the Federation from sitting down with the women's national team and finding the right route forward. And I would expect that Cindy Parlow-Cone will lead that charge. And having somebody with the experience with the women's national team, her other experiences in the game, involved in the NWSL, involved on the professional side, involved on the youth side, but not involved on all the politics, not involved in all the political side of the game. I think it's going to help her a lot, and you have a fresh perspective. Now's the time to take advantage of that. It's still fresh. Fix these things, move forward, and everybody can win. And that's ultimately what you're looking for in anything like this. You're looking for the win-win, because you don't want either side to walk away with bad feelings, upset, talking trash in the media. Unnamed sources say that people are very unhappy. You don't want that. You want both sides to say, hey, we didn't win everything, but we won what we wanted to win. We're good. We're going to work together going forward.
And I think that Parlow-Cone's perspective, that fresh perspective of her being a player both in the leagues in the United States and on the national team side, I think that helps out, because previously all you've had are folks who have done this from the perspective of being inside an office. No professional players attached to all of this. So I think that having that perspective is key to make sure that everyone can go forward and not have the sniping that could carry over into future negotiations and future contracts and things like that. I think that her multitasking, her history basically, can help the matter out, that you would like to get it to that anticipated result.
Yeah, it's going to be critical, and I feel pretty good after seeing that bit with the foundation, because it just makes you think that the Federation is starting to look big picture, and they have to. and they have to be run a different way. They should have been run a different way in the mid-'60s when professional soccer started, and you had a cash infusion that the Federation never had. Didn't happen. You should have had the Federation run differently when the NASL blew up in the late 70s. Didn't happen. They basically fought with the league on everything possible. It should have happened immediately after winning a World Cup bid. Didn't happen. Should have happened when MLS started. Didn't happen. Well, now's the time. Maybe it is a global pandemic and the controversies that happened because of this case. Maybe that's what's going to cause the Federation to actually operate like a modern nonprofit. Because a modern nonprofit, everybody points to the nonprofit side, and people get mad when the Federation has a big cash reserve. Well, the reason you have a big cash reserve is what's happening right now. Because a foundation is not in the same place as a business in terms of controlling revenue. You got to have a backup plan. And even that wasn't enough for the Federation. They did have to get one of the loans that's been made available by the government. But you have that reserve because you're a nonprofit. Yes, you have to invest in certain things. Yes, you have a bigger mission than just making money. Yes, but you still have to make money. You know, it is a business, and a modern nonprofit is ultimately not successful if it doesn't run like a business. You know, we've talked about it from an MLS front office standpoint, and especially from a lower division standpoint. You can't make people feel obligated or guilty for supporting you. You can't say, well, you're a soccer person, so you need to buy a ticket to our local team. Or you're a soccer person, you need to give us a donation. You might get a ticket bought. You might get a donation. But that's not sustainable. You've got to make it to where people don't feel obligated to support you, that they want to support you. Just like a business does, you know? I mean, you don't see McDonald's like guilting people into buying a Big Mac. People buy a Big Mac because they want to buy a Big Mac. It's just that simple. So a foundation has to think that way. A federation has to act that way, even though they are a nonprofit. That's something this federation has to start to think about. Because now in the United States, maybe 50 years ago, different conversation, 40, 30, 20, 10, whatever. Now, if you are a soccer person in this country, you don't have to go through the federation for stuff. You don't have to watch the U.S. national team. You can watch whatever national team that's beamed into your house. You don't have to watch the leagues that the federation makes money off of. You can watch whatever league in the world you want. You don't have to play in federation-affiliated leagues. There's a ton of leagues that are unaffiliated that you can go play in, youth and adult. So the federation has to make the case that you should support us because we provide quality, because we are doing the things that a business would to keep your business. And this federation hasn't done that in its lifetime. I'm hoping now, because you have soccer people but with different perspectives there, that will change. And it has to change. It has to change now, because these are the times where all that type of attitude and making it harder for people want to support you, well, people are limited in what they can support right now. And people are going to make choices about who does the right things in this kind of time frame. They're going to get that long-term support. And if the federation, during all of this, can clean this up with the national team, especially on the women's side, but yes, you're going to have to do a men's CBA too. Get them all knocked out. Get them all in the room. Get them all in the Zoom call. Get it knocked out. Get this done with the foundation. Clean up some of the frivolous lawsuit stuff and craft the pathway to a modern time that will end with hosting a World Cup in 2026, and that's going to kick you into a whole nother era. But you've got to do the groundwork now to get to 26 and be in the right spot. Agreed.
Where would you like to go first this morning outside of the federations?
Well, you got a bunch of stuff, so you call it.
All right, so let's go Bundesliga. From our friends at Sky, Angela Merkel is set to announce the restart date on Wednesday. Play could resume, and this is the headline from Reuters. Play could resume May 15, according to Reuters. 11 individuals in Germany's top 2 divisions tested positive for coronavirus this week.
11 now?
Yeah, that's the subheader. And
11 out of 1,700 plus.
Yeah.
I thought I saw one of the second division teams. It might have been a lower division team.
It was a second division. You're right.
Second division team that had multiple, and they talked about quarantining.
Yes.
Okay. These are where you have to figure these protocols out, because we talked about it with Cologne, because they had 3, and they did the follow-up testing, and they've decided not to quarantine everybody. This is where you've got to figure that stuff out. Did the other team have the other 8? Is it just the 2 teams that had positive tests?
That I have to look up really quickly. I just knew that second league, the second division team had the other tests.
Yeah,
or the other positives.
Yeah, so then they must have had the rest. I didn't hear about any other teams having them. So they had a lot, regardless. That's where the follow-up testing comes into play, and that's where figuring these things out is going to come into play, because you don't have a precedent for this, really, in figuring out how to get back on the field in these times. I do think this idea that one positive test means the league shuts down is just not going to be the case. I don't think that's what's going to happen. If you have all of the testing and you are following all of the protocols and the procedures, you should limit it. And to be perfectly honest, that's about all you can do. Nothing is foolproof, as we've seen with this. These players have, reportedly been following all the protocols and avoiding, anything that could expose them to the virus, and you still had 11 out of 1,700. That's not many. I'm assuming, and I'm not doing math this morning yet, that is a lower percentage than the general population in Germany. So it's going to be about how you handle this. And that's going to really create the pathway for other leagues. Because just doing the initial testing, is it surprising that there are some players and staff who tested positive? Not really. Not when you look at the general population. But it's how you handle it. Because that's the issue. None of these people, I'm assuming, were sick. None of them, had symptoms. We don't know if any people did not come back yet, if any players or staff did not start training because they were sick. I would assume we would have heard that if that was the case. We haven't. But it's how you handle it. It's how you move from here. That's what's going to create the pathway for Italy, for Spain, for England, who all want to play for the same reasons the Bundesliga does. They need to fulfill the TV contracts. They need that money. France didn't have the choice, and France also, and probably one of the reasons why they were approved for it, they got a huge government loan to help kind of stem the tide from the TV money that they're not getting. The government shut France down. They were going to play. Ligue 1 was going to play. They were on the same kind of pathway that the others were because of money. It is a factor. And as we'll learn about the Premier League and the Football League in England, it's a time of reckoning on the finances. And that's why you are trying to find the way to play. Safely, obviously, safely. But you're going to have a bump in the road. This is a bump in the road at the beginning for Germany. It's good that it's happened now. You can figure out the right protocols, the right kind of testing to follow up to ensure safety, because that's what ultimately has to be there to be able to play.
The announcement in Germany will come once again from our friends at Sky, will come after the Committee of Sports, which consists of members of the country's parliament, has held a meeting tomorrow and put the proposal forward to the government. No Bundesliga reps are expected to be present at the Committee of Sports meeting, but they might be consulted over the phone. Bundesliga plans have already been discussed in small groups prior to the meeting by different federal state representatives. A lot of the plans on how the league will be concluded. Most teams have 9 matches left. I think 2 teams have 10 matches to go. Will once again depend on what stadiums can be used, depending on lockdown restrictions being equally lifted in all of the states in Germany. And so that is where we are, where Germany is concerned.
So in Germany, I think the key, if you're looking for comparisons, fairly similar structure as the United States in terms of states and national and the coordination between them. Most government functions in Germany at the state level, and I think most of the smaller functions at the national level, are in support of this. They are okay with this moving forward. So that's a big help here. We're not at that point in the United States yet for this type of action, but I can pretty safely assume that every league in the United States and every sport that is thinking about getting back on the field is looking at what's happening in Germany and looking at what's happening in Korea right now. Two, large operations, the Korean baseball organization. I did not stay up to watch the KBO last night on
especially
ESPN.
After the rain delay. No,
there was a rain delay, even better.
Uh-huh.
No, I did not stay up to watch that, but ESPN picked up those rights. They're showing how they're handling it, and they're in a much better place in handling the virus as a whole. Germany has handled it really well. They are showing how they are trying to get back on the field. Everybody else gets to learn from those two, and we'll take best practices from them. And I hope that they're being very forward in sharing those best practices. I mean, we're hearing a lot of it, but I hope that if Major League Baseball has a question, you're getting answers. I hope that if MLS talks to the Bundesliga, they're going to get answers about, we tried this didn't work, we're moving forward with this works really well, this is what you need to do, use this plan.
Since there's a lot of stuff in England, let me go to France really quickly. And since it's one issue, since there's one story in France and a boatload in England, let me go to France really quickly. And this comes from our friends at Pro Soccer Talk and friend of the network, Nick Mendola. For justice, in quotation marks, is the headline of a new post on the website of Liga side Amiens SC, who is furious, and this is Nick's words, furious at its relegation from a season shortened by the coronavirus pandemic. Amiens were 4 points back from safety with 10 matches to play, winless in 16, but picking up draws in 5 of their last 7. So now Amiens is asking supporters to sign a petition. And there's a link on their website. And their anger extends into the fabric of the city, with the mayor arguing now that the club exiting Ligue 1 makes the area lose part of our attractiveness as a city by default. And they're also asking for a 22-club Ligue 1 for next season. And so you can sign a petition. That's what Amiens wants right now.
France.
Quite, yes.
I mean, first off, what was the headline again?
For justice.
Why didn't they use La Resistance? I mean, come on.
Where's our boy Robert Conway?
No, I'm not going that. I'm going South Park on it. Why didn't they go La Resistance? Come on. Look, this is no surprise. We weren't the only ones who called it, but I think we called this
pretty quick.
6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
They declared the season over, and they declared that promotion relegation would happen, and teams are getting relegated, even though they could have saved themselves. Would they have saved themselves? We'll never know. But they could have. But they didn't get the chance to. So, welcome to the legal system, because it's where we're at. I mean, let's look at the different leagues so far, and I don't think Belgium has announced anything yet. Scotland has not had their top flight call the rest of their season yet, because they're probably still fighting about things. But
that's later in the show.
They have not put a stop to promotion relegation yet. Belgium, I don't think they've made an announcement.
I haven't heard anything, no.
France, season stopped, normal promotion relegation. The Dutch, season stopped, nothing. Didn't happen. The season didn't happen, essentially, in terms of promotion relegation. Nobody moves anywhere. Argentina, they're making the first division bigger. They're not relegating anybody. So you've got different situations everywhere. This was the one that if anybody took this option of, yes, we're stopping the season, and then we're taking the table and acting like we finished, you knew there was going to be a lawsuit. I mean, you knew it. So whether it's a petition, whether they're going to have a a midnight gathering with punch and pie and get people there to sign the petition? I don't know, but
pitchforks and tiki torches.
Yeah, it's inevitable. Like, you're going to get complaints about it because they could have played their way into safety, and they don't get the opportunity.
Omiya SC is asking the Football League, and this is from the wording off the website, asking the Football League to review its position and make the fairest choice.
Okay.
A Liga 1 with 22 clubs for the 2021 season, supporters from Omiya and football lovers support our initiative that would make football and sport grow. And then there's the link to the petition for fans to sign.
Okay. Sign the petition. I mean, this is not going to go away quietly. No. There's no way it can. I mean, you're talking about big business here, and this is going to have an effect. I mean, does it lower the standing of the city? Well, it might be a little bit of a stretch, but, it doesn't help.
No.
It's not something you're putting on the tourist brochures. So, we'll see how they handle it, but I don't expect there to be a 22-team Ligue 1. They've said they're not going to do that. The Premier League has said they're not going to do that, and we'll get into a little bit of it. I'm a little surprised as to who is fighting for not having that, because I would have thought it'd be the other way around, but who knows? I mean, again, there's no precedent. Everybody's trying to figure out how to deal with this on the fly, and some are figuring out ways that are less tumultuous, and others are just all about the turmoil.
All right. England, and there's a lot.
Oh, boy.
And a lot of different stuff, too.
Okay.
First and foremost, let's start with the Premier League.
Okay.
Revealed, according to our friends at the Daily Mail.
Oh, the Daily Mail. Okay.
Yes. Joe Strange from the Daily Mail. Revealed, in all caps. Premier League clubs have discussed making matches shorter than 90 minutes in a radical move as a part of the Project Restart plans, says PFA chief Gordon Taylor.
You just made the list!
Yeah. From the article, top flight officials are considering a number of measures to improve the safety of players and staff amid the coronavirus crisis, including neutral venues, and there are 10 that have been put on a list, so Chris might be able to help us out there, and extra substitutes in every game. And now Gordon Taylor has claimed that another radical proposal to shorten each half is on the table ahead of showdown talks on Project Restart later on this week. In an interview on BBC Radio 4, Taylor says about scrapping the current season, he says, we'll have to wait and see. I'm talking about protocol that's coming out. I'm talking about the future. We don't know the future. What we do know is what propositions have been put forward and ideas, more subs, games possibly not being full 45 minutes each way, neutral stadium. There's a lot of things put forward. We're trying to wait to see what the proposals are and have the courtesy to let the managers, coaches, and players assimilate all those and come to a considered view.
Personally, I think we got hosed on that call.
That would be idiotic. Just my opinion. I understand you're trying to figure out how to deal with a compressed schedule, and that's an issue. More subs, easy. Larger game day roster, easy. You want to have 5 subs instead of 3. Even if you want to do your convoluted, you can only make 3 changes, not including halftime. That's fine. I can deal with that. I don't love it, but you can deal with that. 20-man game day roster. You're going to have to print out some new lineup sheets, but I think you can handle that. You can handwrite that in. I trust these guys to have decent handwriting, or they can find somebody on the staff who does. Okay. All those things are fine. They don't materially change the game. We've seen competitions here in the U.S. You've seen other competitions that have used more subs, and it's not the catastrophic, oh, my God, this isn't the same sport. But this is the same reaction I had to the idea for baseball to play 7-inning doubleheaders. Stupid. It changes the game. It's not the same game. I think it's dumb that American high school rules, at least in Georgia, and I think most states follow this. 80 minutes. Dumb. You can play 90. It's fine. You're playing those kids are playing 90 at the youth level. So why are you doing 80 at high school? It's foolish. There's no good reason for that. You're not going to change it to a level that actually has an effect. You're not going to play 60-minute games. If you're playing 80 versus 90, what's the real difference? Like, stop. So I think it's a terrible idea. More subs, fine. Larger game day roster, fine. Less than 90 minutes played, dumb. Dumb, dumb, dumb.
Premier League games are set to be shown on YouTube for free, as football bosses want all 92 remaining matches to be shown live if the season resumes amid lockdown.
Okay, that's fine.
And so that is a proposal that is out there currently. And once again, from David Wood at the Daily Mail, broadcast on Sky, BT Sports, and YouTube, with the plan being set to be completed in 7 weeks.
It obviously needs geo-blocked for the UK because those games have been sold other places. The UK, like, you have a bunch of games that are not sold. They were not going to be broadcast. So I'm a little surprised that you're going to go to YouTube with it, but you can sell ads on top of it. So go for it, I guess. Maybe this is a bit of an early entree to say, yeah, we're just going to throw it on YouTube for free. Unless you're listening, Amazon, because Amazon has done stuff with the Premier League. And then you're talking about extra revenue coming in. And, yeah, you're probably going to have to kick some of that to your existing TV partners because they lose that exclusivity. But cash rules everything around me.
Strange that you would mention Amazon, sir, according to the article from The Sun. Under the plans, most games will be shown on main broadcasters Sky and BT. Amazon will have a selection of other matches, and with no games due to be shown live on the BBC or ITV, YouTube is being discussed as that free-to-air option. A number of other sports have also embraced YouTube, as we all know, to broadcast matches live for free. The last time the Premier League showed matches for free was on opening day of the 2013-2014 season.
Okay. I wonder why they did it then.
It was just an opening day thing just to draw folks in. Sky showed Manchester United Swansea. BT Sport allowed fans to watch Crystal Palace and Arsenal for free. So that was just part of, hey, it's opening day. We're going to do something a little different.
Okay.
So, yes, you mentioned Amazon, and so Amazon looks
Amazon
like they might
heard the call, and they walked in the door. They
said,
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, 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 money.
I don't know if Amazon does that dance at all. But they do walk in and say, here comes the money, I would assume.
Well, for those watching on Twitch, I was trying to do my Shane O'Mac impression.
It was bad. It was very bad.
Not a show.
Kirby's watching on Twitch. Welcome.
Morning, Turner. Let's see. What else is going on? Sky and BT. We mentioned Sky and BT since we're talking about TV partners. Once again, from our friends at the Daily Mail, who've been very, very busy. Sky and BT want relegation as a part of their TV package, and they don't want that taken off the table so they can have exciting programming toward the end of the regular season schedule.
Okay, so let's try to take stock of this if you are a TV partner. So you want exciting relegation scraps on your televisions for the end of this current season, but you don't want more games next year? I'm guessing because you feel like the league would say, yeah, you're going to get more games and you're going to pay for it. Or they're going to try to get out of the contract, or your contract is very binding and it doesn't matter if there's more games or not. You're paying the same amount and you're not getting anything extra. I don't know. It feels short-sighted to me. I would think if you have more games and more product, you can find a way to make more money. Just a thought.
They want to keep relegation in the Premier League so they have drama to sell.
Yeah, let's have drama to sell about yay, this team might go out of business if they get relegated this time around. This is not your average relegation 6-pointer. Bournemouth will be bankrupt if they lose.
And they would be...
Tune in.
Yeah, Bournemouth and Norwich. No offense, Michelle, not allowed.
I think Norwich...
They'll be okay.
Yeah, Norwich will be okay. Bournemouth is the one that I don't know how they're okay. I don't know how they'll be okay if they get relegated.
Yeah, according to an article in the Telegraph, they believe Project Restart, the TV partners, believe Project Restart will be a difficult sell without the drama of a relegation battle.
I'll agree with this season that being an issue because the title's done. You know, the title's done. I think you've got drama for the European spots, but we don't know what the European competitions look like, so I get that maybe that drama is not quite the same. With the title being decided, yeah, maybe that's just what they're thinking is, well, we don't have much else, so yes, we've got to watch these teams compete not to die.
Yeah. So, and speaking of teams not dying, Crystal Palace chief Steve Parish says that Premier League clubs will be like airlines if they don't start playing again by August. The notion
They'll be like airlines. What's that supposed to mean?
That they may need bailouts from the government.
Oh, so now England wants to be Argentina in this world, huh? Okay.
So Steve Parish had that quote floating out there the other day.
I'm going to assume that won't go over very well. For most clubs. If it was a Liverpool, if it was a big club, okay, maybe then there's a little bit of a push for it. But Bournemouth ain't getting that support.
No.
Sadly. I mean, it's just how it'll be. The reason why in Argentina you had the government protect clubs was because you're talking about the biggest clubs that were having major financial issues and essentially bankrupt. And they would not let them go out of business because they were too big to have that happen. I don't think the big clubs are those clubs in England right now. And I just don't think there's going to be a governmental push to save Premier League clubs that, the airlines are a little bit different thing. And we've talked about this with sport in general. Sport is a different thing. It's an important thing, and there are elements to it that can absolutely help the country move forward with all of this. But I don't think you're going to be able to pick club by club and say, well, we're going to help this club. Well, we're not going to help this club. It's just not going to happen. At a minimum, if you see something like France, if you go really long with this in England and you don't have games played, could you see a loan of some sort from the government, something like that? Maybe, but it's going to go across the board. It's not going to go team by team.
Last month, according to our friends at the Daily Mail, Virgin Atlantic owner Sir Richard Branson warned the government that if his airline would go out of business without a $500 million taxpayer-funded bailout, and British Airways plans to get rid of up to 12,000 staff, Parish warned that Premier League clubs would be similarly useless if football doesn't get back up and running, and that the financial impact of not being able to play could create a doomsday scenario. Those are Parish's words.
It's not a surprise. I think people have maybe stuck their head in the sand on it a little bit too long, but it is not a surprise that you're having these conversations had right now. When it will be surprising is when it's not a Crystal Palace, when it's not a Bournemouth, when it's not a club that has had financial issues in the past, when it is a big club, when it is one of the bigger clubs in the country that starts to talk in this way. And I don't know how far off that is, and that's the thing. We don't exactly know how the TV money's going to line up. They're going to have to figure out how to fulfill the existing TV contract, or you're going to take a big loss. And then they're going to have to figure out how to get back on the field for next year, whether they finish the season or not. They're going to have to figure out how to get back on the field with no fans, but find something in the way of revenue to replace that. I don't know what it's going to look like yet. But ultimately, in the long run, even if you get through this, you're going to see lower salaries coming out of it. You're going to see lower transfer fees paid coming out of it, you're going to see a big change in how clubs operate. And the clubs who will benefit in the maybe not immediate short term, but maybe 2 years down the line, when clubs have really tightened their belts, they're not going out and spending crazy money on transfers because they don't have it. They're not paying crazy salaries. The clubs with strong developmental programs, the clubs that are developing their own talent, will benefit. Two things. It's going to be cheaper when you're bringing up kids that can play. You're going to have lower salaries straight away, so that's going to help you. And you're not going to have big clubs coming in and buying that talent up. You're going to keep them longer. So you're going to see clubs like a West Ham, for example, who's always had a very strong academy. West Ham is a club that could really benefit 2-3 years down the road. Now if the financial side comes back, different conversation. If that gets flipped on its head quickly and the money comes back into the game, which most people are saying is going to take time, if that happens, then you lose that advantage. But maybe not in this first year while players are still under contract in a lot of cases. Teams still have strong rosters. It's going to be when stars go out of contract and their next contract's not going to be as big and teams aren't able to just buy their way to a talented team. A West Ham, a club like that, they're going to be able to really benefit and develop their own talent. That's going to be an essential part of this.
Parrish told the Sky Sports, the football show, "I think it's an important debate, and I genuinely don't feel people are thinking clearly about the ramifications if we don't play. We'll be throwing ourselves at the mercy of our customers. We would be in a position where fundamentally we are airlines from August." That's a day scenario. "But I don't have any visibility on any income past August, and I don't understand why anyone would pay us if we're saying we can't put the product on for them."
Yeah, so I'm assuming, trying to read between the lines here, that they feel like it sounds like they feel like if they finish the season, you've got money coming in through August, through whatever agreements you have. And we've seen the July 31st date thrown around about finishing the season. That was out there early. That's come back into the conversation. I'm assuming that's all because of contracts with sponsors and advertisers and TV.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then, yeah, even if you finish the season behind closed doors, even if you finish the season in neutral sites, that'll get you your money through August. It's the question after that. Now, I'm assuming there would be TV money that would come in if you play. If you don't, there's nothing. There's nothing on the books. So, yeah, that's real. That's real because it's a different conversation. What we've seen at Aberdeen has been really cool to see the supporters of a smaller community feel kind of club rally around and buy season tickets and buy memberships because they know the club needs that revenue now. But the Chicago Red Stars talked about it when they released their new jersey. Other clubs are starting to talk about it a little more openly. There's no revenue right now. And at some point when there's no revenue, there's no business. And there's no payroll. And there's no people. And there's no moving forward. So you wonder why clubs are trying to play. This is why. This is what they're facing. August ain't far away.
Parrish also said in that interview, he says, "Next season, in all likelihood, we'll start with neutral grounds, and I'm sure we'll want to get back into our stadiums as soon as possible. There will be a distortion of the competition that way. All the pitches are pretty much the same size. An empty stadium's an empty stadium. It'll be a level playing ground from when we start. As with any season, there'll be bumps and idiosyncrasies. You can have injuries and scheduling that can play against you anyway. It isn't a preset 8 months, and we never move anything. Luck plays a part. Everyone has a fully fit squad. Probably didn't have that when they went in. There will be swings and roundabouts. It's likely we will start next season in neutral grounds. We want to get back in our stadiums as quickly as we can."
It's real. I mean, I get the complaints, like teams that would have home games at the end of the season. Well, they're not going to get that home game. They're not going to get that support from their crowd and the effect of that. They got players back from injury that they wouldn't have had. You know, you can't control everything. It's better than not playing, because not playing, you're going to have clubs in the Premier League that can't meet payroll. That's going to happen if you don't play. The safety issue is the number one thing. There's no question about that. But when you get to this next level of, well, it's not in our home ground, and, well, it doesn't have our supporters there, and, well, that's not fair, I don't have any sympathy there. You have to make it safe. If you can make it safe, you need to play for the financial health of these clubs. And that's not in any way diminishing the effects of this virus, because, again, safety, number one. You can't be safe, you can't play, period. If you can make it safe to play, you're going to need to play for the business, because it's not going to exist if you don't. It's just not.
Then Rick Perry was having a discussion via video link yesterday with the Digital Culture and Sport Committee in England. And Perry is the EFL chairman, for those who do not know. And he warned in his discussion yesterday, the Premier League face a very messy legal situation if 3 championship clubs aren't promoted. He confirmed discussions with top-flight officials have led him to believe promotion and relegation will go ahead as normal, 3 sides dropping out of the top tier, 3 going up. But Perry says, and he admits, that the lawyers are going to get wealthy, his words, if the Premier League go back on their word and don't welcome the Championship's top 2 clubs plus the playoff winners next season. Mm-hmm. And so you're looking at Leeds and West Brom, and you could have 6 clubs. You know, obviously you'll have 6 clubs switching places. Perry says we expect 3 clubs to be promoted. Bottom line, in all the conversations we've had, we expect 3 to be relegated. The lawyers are going to get wealthy if they change their minds. There would be outrage in the Championship. It would be a breach of the agreement between ourselves and the FA. I would expect the FA would have an opinion. The safe answer is it would get very messy.
Yeah. I mean, that's real, because Leeds, for example, we know what they have done, what they have spent to try to get back to the Premier League. They have earned the opportunity to get back to the Premier League with what they've done so far. If you take that away, if you go the Dutch route and you say no promotion, no relegation, everybody holds their spot, we start next season with the same group, Leeds is immediately in court. And they should be. I mean, I get it. I completely understand it. That's why I've always felt that while it is a very complicated situation in the short term, it is the right way forward to promote and not relegate. The negative effects of relegation are, right now, I think, stronger than the positive effects of promotion. I think clubs that get relegated right now could face catastrophic damage. It's a different time. Let's not cause that when you didn't get to finish the season where they could have played their way up and stayed up. Let's not relegate. Let's promote like you're supposed to. Figure out a temporary schedule and a temporary relegation promotion set up for next year and go forward, because that's the only way that feels fair right now. But the only league that's went down that road, which is kind of shocking that they're the ones that feel fair right now, is Argentina, because they've had 30 teams, 28 teams, 26 teams, 20 teams, 24 teams. It's all over the place. They don't care. That doesn't shock them. That doesn't scare them. But there's this idea, and it comes into, you know, all forms of the game. There's this idea that like 20 teams is some magic number, and if you don't have 20, then it's too weird. You just schedule it differently. That's all. You're going to play 44 games. Okay. You're playing 6 more games. Okay. You're going to have somebody with a bye week each week. Okay, that's how it's just what you do. You tell Carabao, thank you, no thank you. Here's whatever money back. We're not doing a League Cup. Or if the League Cup is what it is, then for Premier League teams, they're going to put their U19 team in it, and that's fine, whatever you got to do contractually. But you play 6 more games, you have a bye each week, you figure it out, you go forward. That's far more fair than relegating teams that could have stayed up and not promoting teams that have earned that opportunity, because that's going to be an infusion that could save teams. You want that. You don't want to do something in terms of relegation that doesn't feel necessarily fair and potentially damage teams and maybe even put them out of business.
Tofka's in this morning. He says, in all caps, just allow promotion without relegation for one season. Handle the difficult scheduling for a year. Do double relegation in 2021 and move on. Ugh.
It's not hard. It's really not hard. Premier League, other leagues considering this, there are, I believe, free services online to make a schedule that will allow you to do it with whatever number of teams, whatever format you want. If it's too complicated for you, go look it up on Google, put in 23 teams, put in home and away, and they will spit out a schedule for you. It's not that difficult. It's the most fair way going forward. Do it.
Perry was a very busy man at the DCMS committee on Tuesday. He also opened up on the need to complete the current season in the EFL by the end of July, with around 1,400 players out of contract at the end of June.
Now that's across all the leagues.
Yes.
It's like 40-something in the top flight, I believe. It might even be less than that in England. I think that might have been a European number. Lower divisions, you're signing guys to one-year deals. I mean, you're not going to have a multi-year contract in League Two. You know, it's just not going to happen very often unless you're a young up-and-coming player that you're trying to hold on to. For your average player, you're on year-to-year deals. So, yeah, that's a fact, but I don't know if you're going to be able to do that. We'll see. If you're back on the field in mid-June, which I think is where the Premier League's head is right now, can you finish by the end of July? You can. It's not going to be easy, but you can. It could get done if you have no further hiccups. But you're probably 2 weeks, maybe even less than 14 days away from that being pushed back and getting squeezed even more. You know, I think if you have 6 weeks, you could probably get the season done, the league season done. That's not including anything to do with Europe, and I don't know how that's going to look. There's no way to know at this point. But the domestic league is the number one priority. You get 6 weeks. They've got 9 games left in the Premier League. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's doable. And it's not even to a point that you have to play less than 90 minutes or even do anything with substitutes. If you're playing 9 games in 6 weeks, that's not all that abnormal. Now, if you get to where you can't start until July 1 and you're playing 9 games in 4 weeks somehow or 4.5 weeks, however the calendar falls, then we're talking something different. But if you're able to play 9 rounds in 6 weeks, you can do that. But the clock is ticking because you've got to be back to a fairly, well, sustainable, but a fairly comprehensive level of training in the next 2 weeks to get there, to be able to start on time. And if you don't start on time, then it gets more complicated.
Topka says, can you imagine a 6-team relegation battle? Holy crap, that'll be good TV.
Uh-huh. Be selling that. I mean, good grief. That would be amazing.
So I would dig that, no doubt. Perry also said that he has, in his video call, he pleaded for a rescue package from the Premier League with clubs in the EFL heading to a £200 million black hole by September because of the coronavirus crisis. He made the gravity of the situation crystal clear, according to the Daily Mail, called for long-term solutions, branding parachute payments evil.
What?
He says, we need a rescue package. We also need to address the longer term, or we will be back into problems in 2 or 3 years. They need to go hand in hand.
Wait a minute. So he wants a
bailout.
rescue package.
Yep, 9 figures.
But he doesn't want parachute payments going forward, which is essentially a rescue package for getting relegated.
Uh-huh.
Am I wrong?
No.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, I think the only way that promotion relegation has worked as well as it has in England is because you have the parachute payments. Because other leagues don't have parachute payments like that. It's always the conversation that comes up here when you talk to people about pro rel is, oh, parachute payments. Well, that happens because of the TV money in England. Like, that doesn't happen in every country. There's no giant secret pot of money here that would allow that to happen. Do I love it? No, because it can, for clubs that are run poorly, just prolong the agony. But, is it necessary for clubs that lose that revenue when they drop down? Yeah, I think it is. Turner Kirby has a question. I don't know if you have the table in front of you. Has any team in the football league, in any of the divisions, mathematically secured either promotion or relegation?
Efforting
Outside of Bury, we know that Bury has been kicked out, so they're one of the relegated clubs from League One, correct?
Yes.
So that's the only one that we know is locked into a spot.
Yeah. And so this season, going League 2 to League 1, you're going to have, and from the National League, you're going to have that one extra team sent up because of Bury's basically being blown off of the
Bury's
books.
Basically, I mean, yes, but from a pro rel standpoint, they've been relegated 2 spots. So, like, they're technically relegated to League 2, but they don't exist, so you have to promote someone else to take that spot.
Right. So you're all the way at the end of the line if you're Bury right now because you don't exist as a club.
Yeah, you can't play League 2, so you have to promote somebody else to take that spot.
Yeah. So as we are looking at all of the tables and can sit here and see what in the wide world of sports is going on.
John is trying to stall while he
yes, he is. Yeah, because once again, the desktop decided that it was going to think as opposed to everything else.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So we're waiting for the Sky Bet Championship table.
I think there's something Weasley going on.
Not Weasley. It's just sitting here, getting older. Waiting for
what's going on here?
No, Bruce, I don't. Actually, I do. It's just old equipment. Let's see. Still in the championship, you still have teams with hope for promotion and relegation. In League One, which is where we got into the discussion about Bury and Bolton, still a handful of matches to determine. I know John Nason is looking at Coventry City, who are at the top of the table in League One right now. They're 5 points clear of everybody else. A lot of fighting for the spots for the playoff. It looks like with 9 matches to go, Southend United, who fired their coach, I want to say last week, as a part of all of this, they are 16 points adrift with 9 matches to play, and they are 5 points ahead of Bolton. So really, if you looked at the math, barring something unforeseen, you could have Southend and Bolton relegated from League One and down to League Two. And when it comes to League Two, promotion, you got 5 teams within 5 points of each other in League Two right now from 1 to 5. Crewe and Swindon at 69, Plymouth Argyle 68, Exeter at 65, Cheltenham at 64. That gets you into the playoffs. So there's a lot of activity there. And So Stevenage at the bottom of League Two with 10 matches to play. They're 10 points adrift. So really the only activity of relegation would be Southend and League One. Everything else is in play.
It's going to get complicated. It's going to stay complicated. So nobody's guaranteed anything outside of Bury disappearing at this point.
Yeah, and Southend and Bolton are on life support.
And Southend is in a promotion spot, correct?
No, Southend's in a relegation spot.
They're in a relegation spot.
They're 5 points ahead of Bolton in the relegation zone in League One.
Okay. And Bolton was already in financial trouble and barely existed as it stood going in, right?
14 points.
Yeah. Well, how much of that was – did they have penalties because of administration and stuff? Okay.
They did.
Okay. But they did – they were playing games. They were, a functioning club before this.
Yeah, they brought up.
They were functioning. They were playing games.
Yeah, they did. They brought up a lot of their academy kids because they had no finances to have players. So
that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Because that's very possible as to what we'll see at a lot of clubs going forward.
Yep.
That's why you have academies. You're going to develop talent and move on. Turner's right. It would have been more complicated if you had somebody that had already clinched something and then you're having a conversation about them not going up or certain numbers not going up, and that could have added some complication to it. The Football League is, I think, worried about it on two fronts. The promotion going up, obviously, because clubs have spent money to get promoted. If they don't get promoted, then they wasted their money, essentially, and they don't have the money to waste, as we know from how these clubs are operated. But the other side is they are also, for next year, looking at the teams coming down. They want those clubs to come down because those are, Premier League clubs from the year before. That should help some clubs at the gate, if you have a gate. That should help selling the league on TV if you're getting these games televised in a larger package than you already are. I think that is minimal. I think the relegation side, the benefit isn't there. The promotion side, the benefit is there, and again, that's what they should do. So let's figure this out from a logistical standpoint. If you go that route, you pull the Argentina model, and you can't call it that because England would lose its mind. But you promote, you don't relegate. So you have 23 teams in the Premier League. You do whatever you've got to do, and there's going to be different ways to do it depending on if you get to finish the season, if you don't get to finish the season, if you get to partially finish the season, or if you get to just have a playoff structure for promotion spots. But let's assume the number of spots is the same for promotion. So 3 go up to the Premier League. You have 23 teams. You have 44 games in the next season. You relegate 6 in the following season. You still promote 3 the following season. Okay. So the championship is going to lose 3. They're not going to get 3 down. They're going to get 3 up from League One, right?
Right.
Do they promote 3? Does everybody promote 3 beyond that?
It was different in National League to League Two. It was only 1.
Okay, so let's say...
This year it's going to be 2 because of the Bury situation.
All right, we'll work down. So they lose 3, they get 3 from League One, championship, same format as the year before. You're just not relegating anybody. So you're not going to have increased relegation the following year. So you're losing 3 from League One because they go up, but you're getting 3 from League Two, same format. You go forward just like it was. Then League Two, you're losing 3 because 3 are going up to League One, right?
Yes.
You are supposed to be getting 2. You're going to need to get 3 to fix that. And if that's the way you go, all right, then an extra National League team has an opportunity to move up. I'm okay with that. I'd rather have that than relegate teams right now when they can't financially handle it. I'll take that. Because then the only league that is going to have more games in a different format is the Premier League, and I'm sure nobody's going to be crying about more Premier League games in the following season.
TV partners won't complain.
No, because then you've got more games to sell, either to the TV partners to say, well, hey, you bought 390 games and now we've got more games. You want them? Or, hey, Amazon, and Amazon is sitting outside and they're waiting on the call because they expect it.
Here comes
they
the
come
money.
charging in.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money,
And
money.
Amazon says, oh, all those extra games, yeah. We'll take those. We'll handle those. We're good. And we'll do a documentary about the crazy 2020-21 season with 6 teams getting relegated. And you'll make money on that, too. We're just trying to help since you're not going to have fans in the building.
Oh, that'd be great.
I think that would be the way to go. So, hey, Premier League, there you go.
We've
There's
given
your
you
problem.
programming, too.
It's solved. You've got programming. You've got money. You're good. That's the way you do this.
Okay. I'll finish my Rick Perry point before getting into the EFL and their TV deal, because there's news where that is as well.
Okay.
Perry in heading for the £200 million cash shortfall at the end of September. He says, we need hope, we need a plan, we need clarity on the long-term future. We can't go from one bailout to another. We need to assess root and branch. Quote, it is not a bailout, but we need a reset. Parachute payments are an evil that need to be eradicated. They give 6 clubs £40 million, and the other 18 have £4 million each. Lower down, solidarity is welcome, but becomes worth less and less. Not a bailout, but we need a reset. Things need restructuring.
Yeah, they do, and you're gonna have it by default because things are gonna get restructured whether you like it or not. That's just where we're at with this. There's really nothing you can do about it.
Now, we had mentioned the TV deal. The EFL, from Matt Hughes, who's a must-follow at the Daily Mail, the EFL would like to, or they're in discussions with Sky to rewrite their TV deal to broadcast all league matches live.
Okay, the EFL?
Yeah.
Across all the divisions.
Across all the divisions. A group of 15 championship clubs threatened to leave to form that breakaway in protest of this current deal back in November of 2018.
Okay.
Now the EFL want to change the terms of the 5-year deal 18 months later so they can stream all the matches themselves.
Well, yeah, because you're not going to have fans. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Perry wrote to all 71 clubs last week outlining plans for all Football League matches to be broadcast live online using their iFollow service when the sport returns as a way of generating money while stadiums are closed to all fans. Sportsmail has learned such a scheme would breach the contract with Sky. Under the terms of the current deal, the EFL are only entitled to stream scheduled midweek matches and rearranged games. Any weekend kickoffs and matches chosen for live broadcast by Sky are off limits. Understandable.
Well, wouldn't these be technically rearranged games?
Yeah, and I think that's that to me is where the logic is in that.
And Sky, don't be jerks.
Yeah.
You're going to get your games. And if you want to make the compromise that you can't air a game in the same window that Sky is airing their game, that's fine. That's completely fair. Then the Football League needs to schedule their games in different windows because the windows aren't going to freaking matter if there's no fans in the building.
Mm-hmm.
Play it 10 o'clock in the morning. If you can make that work, make it work. Play at 6 o'clock at night. I know the Football League doesn't generally play night games. Well, you're not worrying about fans. Play them. Spread them out. Just have the one national exclusive window. Didn't baseball do this forever ago? Where your Sunday game of the week or your Saturday afternoon game of the week,
1 o'clock.
It was national, and you couldn't have another game on your local broadcast there. And the Braves would have a 7 o'clock game because they wanted it on TBS.
Mm-hmm.
Done. Just do that. It's not rocket science. Sky, don't be jerks. Football League, figure it out. Charge $5 to watch it. Okay. It's some revenue. It's something. And ultimately that's where you're at here. Because the fans who want to say, not having fans in the building isn't real football. Sorry, you're not going to have any football if you don't figure something out. And the clubs are going to have to find something for revenue. if you're able to do this, charge $5 to watch it, or it's free with no commentary and it's $5 with your local team's commentary or something. Like whatever it is to still have a free option, but have an ability to spend a little bit of money to help these clubs out, do it. It's not difficult to put together if people will stop being jerks. Don't be jerks.
Don't be a honk.
Or don't be a honk, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, don't be a honk.
Yeah, okay.
And this is where I disagree with Matt to the point that you just made. He says that Sky's in a strong negotiating position as they're in the first year of a 5-year deal. Clubs are relying on their largesse and not demanding a rebate on their £119 million a season deal due to games not being played at present.
Absolutely. And that's good for Sky to not say, like, hey, we want some money back. That's great.
Yeah.
But that $190 million ain't going to fix all this.
No.
You're going to need more than that, and it makes no sense because here's the thing. When you ultimately get down to it for Sky, if you're the football league, you go to Sky and you say, this is what we want to do. And Sky says, well, we don't want to give up our exclusivity. And the football league says, well, then we're not playing games because there's no point in all the other games happening if you're not allowing us to make those available to the public because the public can't come in the building. So do you want games? This is the only way we can do it and make it viable. There's no point in us playing whatever other – they've got one championship game out of 12 for the weekend. Okay, the other 11 games, why are you playing them? Because nobody can be there. You know, it's just going to be available on radio. That's great if you love radio. I love radio. But you want to watch it? You should be able to spend a little bit of money or watch it free, have it advertiser supported, and have it available. Just avoid the exclusive windows. That's fine. But if you're the football league, you go to Sky and you say, you want your one game? We've got to have the others played and available for people to consume because they can't buy a ticket. It's that simple. I would say you're going to let us do this or we're not going to come back because there's no point in even playing the games if you're not going to allow us to make them available to the people that can't buy a ticket.
Tafka, when it comes to 2021, says perhaps the extra games in your 44-game schedule can be given for free with big-time 2021 relegation in exchange for keeping the existing TV contract money.
Yeah, you could. Those could go to, especially if you get some kind of government bailout, those could go to the BBC. They could go to YouTube. You could do something else with it. You could figure out whatever. I mean, there's different things to do with it. I think the need is going to be for more money. And while it'd be nice to have something available for free, there's going to have to be a way to monetize it. Because you're not going to have attendance. At least for a while in the next season. You're not going to have spectators. Ain't happening. So you've got to find some revenue somewhere. If it's free, you got to be able to sell ads. You got to be able to do something with it.
A couple of notes on Tottenham real quick. Spurs could get £12.5 million from Newcastle if after the pandemic and the lockout and everything gets back to normal. Newcastle would have to pay out $12.5 million if they want Mauricio Pochettino.
Yeah. Wait a minute. I thought if he didn't go somewhere until next season, then he was good and then you didn't have to worry about the buyout. That might have been the correct information. Checking
the article and what was found, but that was from the Daily Mail once again, and I'll check Daily Mail and Pochettino and see what the deal is there. But yeah, under certain circumstances, Newcastle would have to pay $12.5 million for Mauricio Pochettino.
Well, I think they can do that if they want to, and I would think that he's worth it. So our friend Tesco is watching on Twitch, twitch.tv/soccer down here. And Tesco said, yesterday some friends and I did a digital watch-along of the Atalanta-Valencia game that was behind closed doors to remind us what it's like to watch without fans. I found the competition to be just as good as with fans, and the play and intensity was similar. I would gladly have no fans right now. I advise all people who say it isn't soccer without fans to watch that game and get back to me. The excitement about watching the KBO,
Yeah.
which nobody knew anything about really before yesterday. Your hardcore baseball people knew about it, and they knew about some of the stuff and the bat flips.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like, the excitement about games being on at 1 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, that tells you that people will be okay if you get games back.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to figure out things about tickets and people who already bought tickets. You're going to have to figure that out as we go. You're going to have to figure out how to bring in some kind of revenue without fans in the stands. But it is a simple fact. There is just no other way to explain it. If you don't find a way back to play these games, if you are the Premier League, if you're the Bundesliga, if you're Serie A, if you're La Liga, if you're a lot of leagues around the world, if you don't find a way back, you are putting the business at risk. You are putting clubs at risk of going away. And I guess some people have just decided to be very callous about that and just say, well, sorry. And I don't want to see that. I never want to see clubs go away. You've got to find a way to be sustainable. Clubs have managed themselves very poorly in some of these cases. It's a fact. No way around it. Bolton spent themselves into this trouble that they are facing right now. Bury spent themselves out of business. Other clubs have spent themselves to the precipice of going out of business. Nobody expected this, but we've all got to, in this game, come together to try to save what we can save in it. If they can find a way to get back, play games behind closed doors, again, if it is safe, if you have the testing to make sure it remains safe, that's got to be there. You don't have that, you can't do it. You have that, play. I will watch games behind closed doors. I will hopefully commentate on games behind closed doors. It is necessary, and it would be well received. It would. Is it the same? No, it's not. It's not. Can't be. You don't get the same rush from the crowd. You don't get a lot of things that are there, but you're getting something. And I think most importantly, the people out there are getting something. It's better than no action. It's better than watching your club die, because that's what's going to happen to some of these fan bases. And that's why the Football League and Sky need to find a way to work together to get all those other games available to people so they can watch. If it's not available free, I get Sky's understanding on that. If they say, you know what, we paid a lot of money to have a game a week. We don't want a game to be just available on iFollow for people to watch. Then basically work out a deal with Sky to where it is you're buying a ticket to watch it. Sky gets $1 off the ticket. You give them something for giving up their exclusivity. You're selling the ticket for $5 or $10 if you get some special thing. Whatever. There's always ways to figure this out. But Sky's got to work with it, or they don't have a product to air. Period. Fans got to work with their clubs, because there's not going to be clubs to play games if this continues. That's just where we're at. That's just the reality of this, whether you like it or not.
The Pochettino is 12.5 if he's hired this month.
Okay, well, that'd be stupid to hire him this month. So
because if it's June, you can hire him for free.
Yeah, that'd be absolutely idiotic to hire him right now.
Mike Ashley.
You're not playing games. You're not worried about anything in terms of avoiding relegation or getting promoted to anything else or getting into Europe. You're playing out the string. If Steve Bruce doesn't want to continue to collect a paycheck because he knows he's going to be pushed out the door when the time is up, okay, you've got somebody else who can sit on the bench. But there's no point in hiring Pochettino right now. It'd be a waste of money. Give that money to a better cause than Spurs for allowing Pochettino to leave a month early.
Like your staff.
Yeah.
From Soccer Metrics in this morning, talking about all of the broadcast stuff over in England. He says, regarding England, the FA, the Premier League, and broadcast partners don't allow live matches between 2:30 and 5:30 p.m. on Saturdays local time. You can show them live other days, which is why the final match day is always on a Sunday. Regulations will have to be relaxed, but current ones are an issue.
You can work around that. You know, when you're not worrying about fans, okay, if it's 2:30 to 5:30 local time, you can play at noon. You can play at 6. You can play at 8. You can play on Sunday, play on Friday. I mean, you can work around it. And as I've said multiple times, if I'm the football league and Sky is a jerk about it, I tell them literally, we've got 12 games a weekend in the championship. You've got one of them. We're not going to play the other 11. There's no point in playing it if people can't watch it because they can't buy a ticket. So if you want your one, you got to give us the other 11. We're going to protect your exclusivity. We're going to protect your investment, but we can't deliver you games if there's no way for fans to consume the other games. It just makes no sense.
Turner has linked to an ESPN study, and I know that we also mentioned that we wanted to talk about the Athletic study as well. ESPN study, fans favoring returns without spectators. Turner says, I'll take duh for 500, Alex.
Yes, that is a giant duh.
Bruh.
Yeah. Bruh. So there's the ESPN study, and I know that we wanted to get into the stage call study as well over at the Athletic. Two other things out of the Premier League.
Okay.
Up to 10 clubs, and this is the headline, are growing concerned about crowd control when the Premier League restarts, with some concerned it will be impossible to keep supporters away from neutral venues.
This is well, I mean, yes, you can keep people away from neutral venues. It's called police and not letting people there. That is going to take some resources publicly to use to do that. But they're not going to come busting in the gates. Then their team doesn't get to play its game. And no, don't give me the nonsense. Well, they'll dress up like fans of the opposing team and try to get a game forfeited. Stop your nonsense. They're not going to do that. Look, this is the trade-off. I can come up with a reason to blow up every different scenario that you want to have about playing a game, about whatever. I can come up with an alternative. I can play devil's advocate with you all day. Do you want to play games to save these teams or not? If the fans can't understand that doing that is putting themselves at risk, and look, we've seen a lot of people who have not understood that fact, to a degree, that's on them. There's only so much you can do. And if this means you have to think carefully about where you schedule these neutral games to avoid these situations, that's what you have to do. If teams have to come out and say that if this happens, one, you're going to cause us to forfeit. Two, we're going to forfeit because we don't want to put you in this situation where you're going to risk your own health and the people around you's health. And you're going to put the club at risk. Don't do this. If people then still disrespect it, there's only so much you can do. It's basically the idea of, well, people are going to do something stupid so you can't do anything. Like people are going to drive like morons so we can't have cars. Like it's following such a crazy pathway that you're looking for a reason not to play if you're getting to that point. Are people stupid at times? Well, yeah, sadly, yes. And is this a potential problem? Yes. Is it something you're going to have to think about when you're scheduling and when you're planning resources around the facility? Yes, it is. And that's going to have to be a part of the safety issue. It is. But clubs and the leagues have to make it very clear the ramifications of if this happens, you're going to cost your team money, you're going to cost your team points, whatever that is, whatever that works out to be. You've got to find a way to prevent it. But to say because people would do this, we can't play games, I'm sorry, that's not a good enough reason.
And team news involving Manchester City. Kevin De Bruyne has said that he would really have to think long and hard about hanging out at Manchester City if the ban for European competition is upheld. Yeah,
and we knew this was going to come, and we'll see what happens with it. If if it is upheld. That's been pushed on the back burner right now. But, yeah, I mean, if they're banned from European competition, people are going to leave. That's just a no-brainer.
So that's the one piece of team news that has come out. Let's see. Before we get into supporter surveys and ESPN studies, you want me to talk about one of our big sponsor-type dudes?
Yes, I do want you to talk about it.
All right. AA. Yeah.
I don't know what it is that always stalls John out, or John just stalls himself out as he's about to go into his big spiel, as John has frozen, which is always quality on these sorts of things. Good times, John. I will tell you about Steve Apolinsky and Associates. They have supported us along with a number of soccer organizations in the metro Atlanta area, longtime supporters of the Inter-Atlanta Club. Steve Apolinsky is the best at what he does. Longtime supporter in his community. Very important person in the Soccer Down Here universe. And if you go to soccerdownhere.net, you will see Steve right there in front of you, aa-legal.com. There is a live chat. Email steve at aa-legal.com. Phone number 404-377-9191. Steve can help you with whatever issue you need. 32 years of experience, over $40 million in verdicts and settlements, serving clients in Georgia and Alabama. The goal is to provide the best legal representation for his clients and their families. Knowledgeable, compassionate, successful trial lawyers, Apolinsky and Associates. They help us do what we do. They don't help John do what he does or doesn't do when he disappears like he just did. But that's not Steve's fault. I might have to talk to Steve about helping John out over here because he's actually kind of close to John. We're going to try to get John back up, as you can hear it right there. Welcome to Behind the Scenes if you're on Twitch or if you're watching live. If you're listening live, that phone is ringing to try to get John on the line, and now he's trying to make things work. Good job, John.
Diverting, hang on.
Oh, jeez. Now he's breaking things.
Nothing like having your internet crap out on you mid-show.
Yeah. You owe Steve an apology.
I do. Steve Apolinsky and Associates,
I already got it. I covered it.
Well, then good. You covered it. So
443-779.
I'm sorry, my internet is awful. How
There
about
we
that?
go. Yes. And if you're watching on Twitch, I don't know what camera John switched to, but it's kind of ridiculous.
The phone.
Good times.
Yeah.
Man. Okay. Well, now that you're back,
Yeah.
where do you want to take it?
Let's see. You want to go with the ESPN survey?
Sure. Let's go to the ESPN survey.
Okay, ESPN study fans favor returns without spectators. Once again, for 500, the galloping duh there, Alex.
Yes. 1,004 sports fans aged 18 or older. 65% in favor of sports returning, even if fans can't be in the stands. 76% when participants were asked if they support the return of sports without fans in the stands if players were kept in hotels and their contact with others was closely monitored. 88% said that if of the ones who consider themselves avid sports fans, that they would plan to watch as much sports as they can. This was conducted April 17th to 20th, with subsequent waves scheduled over the next few months to monitor and track important shifts in fan sentiment. Kind of a giant duh again. You know, I mean, we've seen it with the KBO. We'll see it with the Bundesliga when they get back. We'll see it across the board. You know, people want to be in the buildings, obviously, because we want everything to be completely back to normal. If you can't do that and you have to play behind closed doors, people will be okay with it and get on board.
And let's see, what else is going on? Do you have the athletic survey there in front of you as I'm still trying to get things squared away with a mobile hotspot?
Oh, John. Yes, I will have that in front of me here in just a second. Let's pull that up. You had a MLS supporter survey, and like we talked about yesterday, it's 2,300 people. It's self-selected, so it's a different kind of survey than the ESPN one. You have to keep that in mind a little bit. It is not calling people randomly. It is not calling season ticket holders. It is people who see the request for the survey, mostly on Twitter, and say, I want to fill that out and give my opinion. So that does skew what you get a little bit out of it. That does have to be, kept in mind here. So who took the survey? Shockingly, 12% of the survey people were Atlanta United fans. Supporters. Seattle next. Houston third, which is fascinating to me, 6.5%. Yep. Would never have expected that. DC, then Minnesota, then Portland, then Toronto. Those are the ones that are over 5% of the support. The supporters that took it. 2% of the people are a fan of the league, no real allegiance. 1.8%, an upcoming expansion team. Miami, 0.7%. Nashville, 1.4%. Kind of hard to even really pass judgment on that because they were just starting to ramp up being mobilized on social media, and then you don't have games. So Montreal and Orlando were the bottom two in terms of teams that had been around a little while, in terms of just filling the survey out, period. Sam is right there with me. Did not expect Dynamo supporters to do it. 148 Houston fans responded, third most of any team in the league. Okay, do you live in your club's market? Not a shock that most of the people who filled this out do live in their market. Atlanta, it was 81.4% said they live in market. 18.6% said they live out of market. Austin was 60-40, which is kind of weird. Chicago was 80-20. Columbus was 57% in, 43% out. You're dealing with a small number here. You have to keep that in mind. DC 64.5 in, 35.5 out. You're getting into small numbers, so I don't know how much that actually means. Out of the two big ones, Atlanta and Seattle was 72% in market, 28% out of market. So mostly in market. When did you become a fan? A lot of people answered 1996, 227 people. 262, the most, answered 2017. That's probably the Atlanta segment answering that, which makes sense. Again, it makes total sense. Fans' take on their club. So fans were asked to rate their confidence in their club's ownership, coaching staff, and roster from 1 to 10. Okay, Atlanta, 9.8 on ownership, no surprise. 8.1 on coaching and roster. No real surprise there. That makes sense. Colorado ownership, 2.6%.
Yeah, thank you, Stan Kroenke.
Yeah. Cincinnati coaching, 4.2%. No surprise, they don't have a coach right now. Houston, which was number 3 in filling it out, ownership, 1.7.
Wow.
Roster, 4.5. That feels a little harsh. Coaching, 6.3. Give Tab some time. I think he's going to change that number pretty quick. Right. The other red numbers that shock you a bit, Chicago 4.8 on roster. I get it. Their roster is not very good. We've talked about this. Salt Lake ownership 2.9. A little surprising. I wonder if some of the fallout from the way the Mike Petke situation was handled and the way some things came out on that, maybe that's part of it. San Jose, 4.0 on ownership, 4.9 on roster, but they like Matias Almeida, 7.8. Orlando, 4.0 on ownership, 5.8 on the roster. Vancouver, 4.2 on ownership. We talked about Vancouver's ownership a lot last year. Not surprised. That's a little bit higher than maybe I thought it would be, but they did make some better moves towards the end of the season to rectify some of their situations. So I guess that's going in the right direction. So then the next section is clubs with one problem area. So looked at some of the different, like the RSL one, for example. Ownership 2.89 out of 10, but the rest of the stuff felt pretty good. Rapids ownership, bad, 2.6, but they liked Robin Fraser, the coach. Not a shock.
No, especially after what happened at the end of last year, yeah.
Yeah, I think the ones that have those big disparities make sense. So, Chicago, I get it. Columbus was one. 8.0 on ownership, 7.6 on coaching, 7.7 on roster. I get it. That feels right. I mean, they're transitioning, but I think they've handled things right. Cincinnati, you've got to get the coaching side right. We understand that. Red Bulls, that's another one that came up. 5.8 on ownership, 5.1 on coaching, 5.6 on roster. That's incredibly average for a team that in the last 6 years, 7 years has 3 supporter shields. I think that feeling about the Red Bulls has definitely changed in the last couple of years. And I don't know what their way forward is, because their mission is their mission. They're not going to spend big money on transfers. They changed that approach. This is a club that, as the Red Bulls, I'm not talking Metro Stars time. As the Red Bulls, they had Thierry Henry, they had Rafa Marquez, they had Tim Cahill. They had names. It got people excited. It didn't necessarily result in more wins. It didn't really result in more fans until recently. And that's the element that's odd. So, a couple of the quotes from Red Bull supporters. The Red Bulls have become increasingly frustrating as they prioritize youth development and a feeder club status over competing for trophies. They won the Supporter Shield in 2018.
Yeah.
That's not long ago. Obviously, youth development is important, but when you don't supplement that with other signings, you're not going to go anywhere. That's after Tyler Adams. That is the Tyler Adams effect, because they did not spend to really replace him, and they didn't have the next guy in the pipeline. He said, the club is going nowhere fast, and part of the reason why I canceled my season tickets after 6 years. Another one said, the team is trying to play Moneyball, developing players for RB Global, while fielding decent teams that can make the playoffs but aren't a threat to win MLS Cup. Again, this was a record-setting Supporter Shield winning team in 2018. There's been one complete season since then. That's a quick turnaround. That's whiplash to get these kind of comments in less than 24 months. After setting a record, having the best season ever in MLS through 2018. That's wild that it's turned that fast. And they're not necessarily wrong. Like, the statements are not wrong. But the perception to change that fast is really surprising. And it shows you maybe a little bit of what happened in Houston, where you had a club that won trophies, that was in back-to-back MLS Cup finals in 11 and 12. And then when it turned fast. And what has to scare the New York Red Bulls as an organization is you're getting that kind of whiplash-inducing turn. And you're seeing Houston, even with an Open Cup title, even with a young, exciting team at times, you're seeing Houston struggle to get back after that whiplash. That's what the Red Bulls have to be afraid of going forward. Do they have to change their approach? Are fans now souring on the approach because... And Tyler Adams, to me, encapsulates it.
Yeah.
You didn't have a giant financial return from a fellow Red Bull club to bring in Tyler Adams, which it's all in the same house. I understand you don't need to have a bunch of money move side to side to show fans that you value it. I get that. That's fine. But to not go out and spend some money on the next one for the New York organization, to expect Christian Caceres to be the guy, and he wasn't for a long time. Maybe he'll end up being that guy, but I think you've already soured the perception. Do you have to give a little bit here if you're the Red Bulls organization globally and say, you know what, we took a top player. There wasn't that announcement on some huge transfer fee, which would have been just moving money from one section to another. It would have been dumb. But you didn't get that. You didn't go out and buy a new big money player because that's not what you're trying to do. But you've ruined the perception of the club. Now you're getting an opportunity on a reset button because of this stoppage, because of coronavirus. Red Bull is one industry that I don't think is going to be hit massively hard by this. If my intake of energy drinks has been anything to judge on, there's probably more. And if they keep coming out with good flavors like watermelon, then I'll keep buying Red Bull products.
Okay.
So do they need to spend some money just to show their fans, hey, we hear you. We're going to still try to develop our own talent, still play the philosophy that we play, but we are committed to winning an MLS Cup, and we're going to go out and spend money on this player to do it. They spent on Kaku. That's another thing. He came in before 2018. That was not cheap. That was like $9-10 million, if I remember right. They're paying him handsomely. He's a player that they have not sold. So the ideas about Moneyball, they're not completely incorrect. But again, 2018, you spent money on Kaku, paying him a big salary. You had the supporter shield. You set a record for best season ever. 2019, you made the playoffs. You got knocked out. You sold Tyler Adams. You didn't really replace him. It changed that fast. That fast.
2 points or 2 thoughts. One, I think to your point, this is that opportunity to show the fan base in the tri-state, and specifically New Jersey, that Red Bulls are more than just a line on a balance sheet, which is, they're part of a collective. It is part of the Red Bulls Borg right now. And this is that opportunity to sit there, and I think for Red Bull corporate, their eyes are on Leipzig and Salzburg. I think this gives them that opportunity to sit there and possibly boost, and I'm going to put that word in quotes, their perception of New York Red Bulls and treat them more than just that line on the balance sheet.
Mm-hmm.
2, I think that the current landscape might play into it a little bit, but I meant before coronavirus, when it comes to disposable income and placement of where the team is, and not addressing your New Jerseyness instead of trying to continue to make yourself a New York franchise. And I think that in today's ideas of disposable income for families, for someone who's not in New Jersey and might be a fan of Red Bulls, and you're in New York and you're in one of the 5 boroughs, for you to take your family to go from wherever you're living, pack them onto the train or put them in a car, drive to Harrison, and invest that much time and money, I think that today we see fans who are more whiplashy when it comes to their perception of what they want to do with their disposable income.
I think if you didn't have NYC, it'd be a different conversation too.
Yeah.
You look at NYCFC, 6.5 out of 10 on the ownership. That's not quite a full point better than Red Bulls. 6.5 on the coach, which is a brand new coach who's got 2 games under his belt.
Yeah.
And 7.9 on the roster versus 5.6 for the Red Bulls. So, okay, they're a little more comfortable with the ownership. They're a decent bit more comfortable with the coaching. They're a whole lot more comfortable with the roster.
Right.
And that's a massive part of this. That goes back to the whole idea about Red Bull Global not putting a winner on the field. They did just a couple of years ago, not even a couple of years ago. And they set a record. They have the second best season in MLS history from 2018. So the whiplash, maybe because of those things that you mentioned, it's more likely to happen faster, but it still feels a little unfair. If the Tyler Adams part of it hadn't happened, I don't think we're having this conversation. That's
you're right.
the part that is hard to justify. Not just that he moved to another club. I think people understood that. Not just that he moved to another Red Bull club. I think people understood that. That's good business. The fact that and this is bad messaging from the club, and this is where I think you have to look at the way they present themselves. After whatever money you brought in, not really going out into the market and getting a replacement, the idea that you're a Moneyball club, the Kaku salary and signing doesn't match up to that.
Right.
But that was a year before you lost Adams. You've lost the messaging battle that fast. And that's a concern. The way that they present themselves now with New York City FC, who their fans are more comfortable about their team than Red Bulls fans are about their team. That's got to be a wake-up call for Red Bull's organization. And I'm with you. I think if they lean into the jersey side of it, they separate themselves from NYCFC in the way they present themselves. And I think they do need to throw a bone here about a player to get people to rally around, because that will change the perception of the ownership. That will change the perception about the roster. I felt like the 2019 Red Bulls were a big step down from 2018 going into the season because of not replacing Tyler Adams. I didn't think Caceres was ready.
Agreed.
They ended up being about what we thought they would be, but then going from 19 to 20, oof. And that's probably feeding some of this because they didn't upgrade. It felt like everybody else has passed them by in the East.
Yeah.
So you've got whiplash, you've got Tyler Adams going, you've got a really quick turn from a really good Red Bulls team in 2018, the second best team ever in points in a regular season, to we're not happy with anything. And they're going to have to try to fix that quickly. More things on the survey before we wrap up this morning. Best owner in MLS. What?
The owner.
Oh, yeah.
The owner.
Well, there's no surprise. I mean,
No.
56% Arthur Blank, and 12% of the survey were Atlanta United supporters. Keep that in mind. But 56% Arthur Blank, 9.4% Adrian Hanauer, Seattle, LAFC third, 7.5, Portland fourth, Toronto fifth. Maybe a little surprising Toronto's there. Worst owner, Colorado, 30% of the votes, and not 30% of the participants at all. New England, second, Bob Kraft, 20.7. That feels very unfair now because of the investments he's made. You're dealing with perception of the past with Bob Kraft being that high. Or you just don't like the Patriots, or you don't like Bob Kraft. And those are very valid things too. Yes. That's probably affecting it. But he has invested now. And it feels like you have to remind people of that on a regular basis. Houston, third, 8.5%. Probably most of the Houston survey participants are the ones who voted there. New York City, fourth. RSL, fifth. No Red Bulls in this. Again, interesting that Red Bulls is just apathetic.
Yeah.
Best coach, Bob Bradley, 40%. Frank de Boer fourth with 7.9, Brian Schmetzer second, Peter Vermees third, Bruce Arena fifth, Greg Vanny sixth. That feels a little unfair. Almeida seventh. That's about right. You got to see more from him to put him ahead of any of the others. Worst coach, Yohan Dame from Cincinnati. It's kind of unfair. He's an interim coach, but whatever. DC, Ben Olsen is next. That's harsh. Marc Dos Santos, third, 8.8. I can't really argue that at the moment. Gary Smith, fourth, 7.5. It's like you're going back and having flashbacks to 2010 Colorado that won a championship, by the way, with a perception that his teams are not good, and I don't think that's fair at all. Pareja, fifth, which is mind-blowingly stupid.
Yes.
People are not paying attention. If you're putting Oscar Pareja 5th on worst coach in MLS, Robin Fraser 6th, again, stupid. Did you not pay attention to what Colorado did last year? Bruce Arena next, stupid. You're mad because he didn't qualify for the World Cup, which was bad, and he screwed up. But that doesn't mean he's one of the worst coaches in the league. Chris Armas, behind a lot of these people. You know, for the whiplash effect and the consternation with Red Bulls, he's 8th on the list.
But is it the apathy in general of the Red Bulls voter that is putting that low a number on there? It's just like, yeah, we'll do it.
I don't know. Pareja 5th. Pareja 5th is the one that makes me really angry. Frazier 6th, angry. Arena 7th, angry. Gary Smith 4th, angry. But Pareja 5th, that's just not liking Orlando. And that's not the question.
No.
That's not the question at all. Fantasy signing. So this was, according to Sam, one of the more lighthearted questions in the survey. You could bring any one active player to MLS. Who would you sign into what team? Messi, Ronaldo, obviously. Duh. Some of the favorite ones, Gonzalo Higuain to Columbus. Bring Federico back too while you're at it. He's in D.C. these days. For whatever reason, and I'm going to flash into my FIFA 20 playing for a second, Federico Higuain is rated, not so much rated, he performs as one of the best players in the history of the planet in FIFA. And I'm 3 years in to a league now, so I'm going into 2022 because you start in the 2019 season.
Okay.
And he's still a beast. I'm like, this guy was coming back from a knee injury that almost ended his career last year. I don't think he's still going to be a beast in 2022, but that's just me. I don't know. League as a whole. So this is mostly anecdotal stuff. People liking the playoff structure. The culture has a lot of similarities to college football culture. I'm assuming that's an Atlanta United fan saying this. It's completely bat-ish crazy. You go into games having no idea what to expect. That's overplayed. Does it happen? Yes. But this idea that there are no favorites, that's starting to change. That's an old perception that anybody can win the league in a year. I felt like going into 2020, it was one of the more wide-open seasons in a while with maybe 10 legitimate teams that could win MLS Cup, but when you're talking about the best teams in terms of a supporter shield and winning week in and week out and being a favorite week in and week out, it's a small number. You know, I mean, it's LAFC, it's Atlanta, it's Toronto, it's Seattle. Like, that's pretty much the teams that you would expect right now. A bunch of different things about least favorite thing in the league. Hard to discuss player moves, salaries, roster building when you don't know the rules. I've said that many, many times right there with you. People talking about promotion relegation in terms of lack of accountability. Yeah. Pro-rel in terms of a business strategy. Well, we've talked about it a lot today in other parts of the world, so that, I think, gives you a good sense of it. Changing a roster rule. Expansion. When should MLS stop expanding? 35% of the people say at 32 teams. I'm good with that. 23% say already too many, and I completely disagree with that. 529 people out of the 2,300 said the league's already expanded too far. I just disagree. I just completely disagree. Which two cities should be next for expansion? Phoenix and Las Vegas won the vote. Detroit was next. San Diego was fourth. Indy was fifth. Other was next. Phoenix, I think, makes a lot of sense. Vegas has questions on terms of bid and ownership and stadium and all that. You have the Raiders Stadium, which could work. You have talk about Cashman being, completely renovated and changed. That could be interesting. Detroit, I'm a little surprised, is number 3 ahead of San Diego. Indy is one to watch out. I think if you continue to expand and you give it a little bit of time, Indy could be a bit of a surprise. 63% of people say that MLS should institute pro rel in some form. Now, okay, you're again, you do have to remember 2,300 people self-selected to do this. Soccer folks on Twitter are probably the more heavy in the yes on pro rel side, and you got 63% of that vote. If you did this of casual fans, I don't think it would be that high of a number. I don't know what the number would be. It'd actually be a very interesting survey to do. The different ideas. So split the league in half, MLS 1 and 2, around 20 teams in each division. That was the most popular. Blow up single entity is category 2, and we just have to think about what's realistic and what's not. Single entity has actually served the league well, so I don't think it's just
especially in this environment.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to get blown up just because people want something that other countries have in terms of promotion relegation. Combining MLS and Liga MX, that's a whole different conversation. Should they merge in some form? 60% say no. That's a little surprising. It depends on how you look at it, I guess. I don't think they should merge, but I think they should play a competition that we've talked about, the North American Super League or whatever, and do that.
Yeah.
What do you think of the commissioner? 1 to 10. Let me make sure it is 1 to 10. Yes, 1 to 10, 10 being the best. The one that had the most votes was 7. Take that. 8 was
most
next.
of them were 5 to 8,
next.
right? 5 to 8 had
to
the biggest.
Yeah,
6 to 8.
5 to 8 overall, but 6 to 8 had all each over 400 votes. So, okay, I think that's good. That's actually higher than I would have thought among these hardcore supporters. Club supporters' average confidence in Garber. I don't know if this really tells you a whole lot. Like the newer clubs, obviously, are bigger fans of what Garber's done.
Right.
Portland and Houston and Columbus, Colorado, and Chicago are the ones who are least enamored with Garber. I think they're least enamored with a lot of things, except for Portland fans. That's a little surprising they're so high on that. Ranking the issues. So how important are the following to MLS's future? Quality of play, very high. Agree. TV deal, very high. Agree. Homegrown players, next. Changing roster rules, next. Refereeing, lower, but high medium. I think refereeing might need to be a little bit higher there.
Yeah, I agree.
But that might be more of a U.S. soccer issue than an MLS issue, so I can roll with that. What else? That's it before we go. So, if you have questions about it, if you have topics in it that you want us to dig a little bit deeper into, please give us a heads up. Let us know. We'll talk about it later. Our video ended up a little behind the audio. I'm going to blame John for that.
Go for it.
Blame John. We're working on the kinks here. We're going to try to do some more video content, even with the morning show for you guys. So for those of you who watch our stuff on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/soccerdownhere. Please give us a follow so you'll get a notification when we go live. We're going to try to do this in the mornings and figure these things out. For those of you who just listen to the audio, if this changed everything for you, and I don't think it did. Everything looked okay on my end of what's going out. If it did, please let us know. Tweet at us at @soccerdownhere. Give us a heads up. We're trying to figure out some new things to do, some new things to add, some new things to add to the arsenal here. So this is one that we will hopefully be doing more of, and we'll be back on Twitch in the morning. John's Skype connection will probably blow up again because that's
pretty
what
much
happens.
Yes, it is.
And he'll be back on his phone, and there you go, and good times.
Yeah.
And
lactic acidosis will happen in the arms, and we'll be good.
Yeah, all of it. You need a stand or something for your...
Yeah, no, really?
Dude.
Before we go,
yes.
GOWW17, at No Mas Cantina is serving Cinco meals to frontline workers today. Go to the webpage, and this is from Geo. Buy some grub for your heroes. They're matching what you order at No Mas Cantina today.
Oh, that's awesome. That is very cool. Good stuff, No Mas Cantina.
So, major props to No Mas Cantina as we wrap up the show today. There were another couple of folks who had thrown things into the pile. Tafka dreamed last night the men's national team lost their second game in the World Cup group stage to Ukraine by the score of 9-4.
Don't eat weird pizza before you go to sleep, Tafka. You won't have strange dreams like that.
And back to our Jolt Cola discussion, Chris Hutchison says energy drinks are very popular amongst the coding clan.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Joe Bost, the quarterfinals versus Brazil match last night was awesome. Never saw it back in the day before his soccer fandom.
Oh, yeah.
Down a player against number one in the world, Rapinoe was a beast in the second half. And Bartimus Prime with a question before we go.
Okay.
Watching the 99 final and the 2011 quarterfinal last night, it's weird that the women's national team regressed in style from 99 to 2011. What tactical switch propelled the team to back-to-back world titles after 2011?
I don't think there was a tactical switch that took them from 11 to winning the gold in 12 and then winning the 15 and 19 World Cups. I don't think there was. Pia Sundhage to Jill Ellis, I don't think was a big tactical thing. I think the players were better. I think you had another generation of talent come through that was even better. Carly Lloyd came into her own. Tobin Heath became a beast on the international scene. You know, in this last World Cup, you had Rose Lavelle. You had Lauren Holiday. You know, Julie Ertz emerged into one of the best players in the world. I think it's the players because I was never really all that enamored with Ellis's tactics at times. I think the talent and some transcendent players is what changed it. 99 to 11 regressed tactically. I don't know if that's the case. I think the game was just so different. Now, I watched some of that 99 final back for the first time in a while, and man, it felt, and some of it is down to the conditions. I mean, it was hot. It was a Saturday afternoon in Pasadena. I think it was like a noon or 12:30 kickoff. So it's probably super hot. That slowed everything down, but the game felt so much slower in 99 than it did in 11. Did that maybe affect how it looked tactically? Possibly. I don't think they regressed. I think tactically they were more complicated in 11 than they were in 99. I think the game was faster and maybe at times a little sloppier because of that. I think Brazil was a better opponent. Brazil in 11 versus China in 99, that Brazilian team was really good. And Marta's one of the best players to ever play the game, male or female. She's incredible. 11, she was not in her best form. A lot of diving, a lot of stuff that I wasn't a big fan of at the time, but she bounced back to have a big World Cup to finish her career in 19. I think the game improved a lot. I think the physical elements of the game changed a lot, faster, stronger. And in terms of tactics for the U.S. as a whole, I don't know if they've really ever truly changed in a big way, in like a game-changing way. I mean, obviously just changing generation to generation, but I don't think Ellis was a master tactician compared to Sundhage, compared to Tony DeCicco. I think that evolution was pretty simple, moving from 1 to 1 to 1. It's more of how the game changed. I'm curious to see what Andonovski brings in terms of tactical development because I have high hopes for it. I hope that we see a team that tactically is a little more flexible, a little more astute, a little better able to handle strong opponents and not just have to do it because we have better players or we have better talent in a certain position. I hope we're able to win some games tactically because I don't know if we've really ever been in that position. Not since the very beginning where just we were playing more than the others. You know, that's a different conversation, and maybe that was an element of it. Maybe it wasn't so much that our tactics regressed from 99 to 11. It was that others caught up, and we just didn't advance as fast as everybody else. Maybe that's more of it.
Yeah, I think so. All right. What else is on your mind before we go?
No, we're out. We're gone. We've got stuff coming. We'll be back on Twitch in the morning. We'll be back on the live app, the live Spreaker, the live soccerdownhere.net show in the morning. Thanks to Steve Apolinski. Thanks to Jason Wright with our On Pause MLS Fantasy League. We'll be back when we can with that, and Jason will be running that for us. Thanks to No Mas Cantina for being awesome, and thanks to you guys for listening. Mucho plata, y'all.
Mucho plata, y'all.